Hello, for this example, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about arrays and array lists. So far, when we've used a variable, we have added one value to that variable. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the simplest of data structures, which is an array. And an array allows us to hold multiple pieces of information in one variable. So very helpful when you need to store what is typically related information. So just for simplicity here, we will set up an array just that holds a couple of numbers. So there are different ways that you can set up your array. If you know all your values at the beginning, then let's say you knew that you wanted to store 3 numbers in an array. So we'll set up our comment here, array that holds 3 numbers. So what we'll do is we'll do int, and that's going to be the type since we're going to hold whole numbers. And then we have our square brackets, which tells Java that this is an array of basically whole numbers. And then we'll call our array something. How about numbers, since that's what we're going to hold. And then we'll do equals and then curly braces, and then 5, 10, 15. And that will be the 3 numbers that we put in this array. So let's say that we wanted to print out the second element. So we could do a system.out.println, and then we can take numbers, and then we can use square brackets to access a particular element. So if we wanted to access the number 10, which is our second element, we would use the number 1 because arrays are 0-based. And so then if we run this, we should see in the output, we should see the number 10, which is exactly what we have. And there are other ways to load the values into the array. Let's say that we don't know what the numbers are yet. So another array that holds 3 numbers. And so for this one, we'll do the same sort of syntax where we'll do int, and then how about we'll call this one even numbers equals, and then we'll do new int square brackets and then the number 3. So we're setting up an array that's going to hold 3 numbers, but we don't know what those 3 numbers are yet. So let's say that our code needs to define how those numbers get set up. So then we could do something like even numbers 0 equals, and let's do 2, 4, and 6. And so I'm just going to copy this for simplicity. So 0, 1, 2, and then 2, 4, and 6. So let's say that we wanted to print out these values. So a for loop is our best option. So we will print out the values in the array using a for loop. So we can do a for and then int I equals 0, I less than our, and we'll just print out the even numbers one, but we would have the same sort of syntax for either. So less than the length, and the length will be 3, but our indexing is 0, 1, and 2. So we want to make sure we're printing out 0, 1, and 2. Once we hit 3, which is the length, we want to be done with this loop. And then I++. And then for this, we'll just do a quick system out. That print line. And then we will just print our even numbers, and then we'll use I for the index. So it'll loop through and print out 0, 1, 2, and 3, those values, which will be 2, 4, and 6. So we'll run this again just to make sure that the code's working correctly. So there we have our 10 from the first array, and then we have 2, 4, and 6 printed out. So oftentimes when we are working with arrays, we will use for loops to print out all the values. And you can have in Java, you can have a array of string, int, objects, whatever makes sense for what you're trying to accomplish with your program. The other thing I wanted to show off is an array list. So arrays work really well in Java when the code knows how many items you have. When you want to be able to dynamically grow and shrink a a multiple piece of information in the same variable, then array list is the best option for that. So what we'll do is we'll do an example here of some names. So list of names in an array list. And so we'll do array list, and let's use the type of string for this one. So we'll do our less than symbol string, and this tells Java what type it is. And then we'll just call this names equals new array list. And then empty brackets and then empty parentheses. And then right now I'm getting a message that the array list cannot be resolved. And that's because the array list is not part of the default Java option. And so what you have to do is you have to import the library that will allow you to use those. So we'll do our import statement here, java.util.ArrayList. And then that should cause our array list now. Java knows what we're trying to refer to. And then what we'll do is we'll add some values to this array list. So we'll do names.add, and then let's do just some names here. So we'll do Mo and Larry and Curly. And how about one more? There, and we can add in however many names we would need to. Oftentimes our programs will not hard code the values. We will be getting these values from a data set or whatnot, and we might use a loop to load up the array list with the values, but for just demonstration purposes. And then maybe we're looking at our array list here and we realize, oh, you know what, we don't want Joe in the list, so easy enough to remove. Then what we do is we do names.remove and then Joe. And then let's say that we wanted to, print out any of our names here. So we can do a system that out print line, and then we'll do a name plus, and then names dot get, and then we'll pass in the index. So let's say we wanted to see who has the second index. So we could run this, and then we should see our numbers, and then also curly. And then I did not add in the list here. And if we try to go for index 3, we should get an error because we don't have that index. And sure enough, we do. So we removed Joe, but if we move this line before we remove Joe, then we should have the name of Joe printed out. So, which you can see there in the output. So, and you can also loop through the array list as needed to print out that information. So I hope this is helpful in kind of seeing the difference. So it just depends upon what the needs are of the data you're working with, which one would be the best option. Reach out with any questions. Thanks.